Hey, what's up, guys? It is your boy Boboke back with another Reddit video. And first and foremost, if you guys are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. I really do appreciate it, and I just hope you guys enjoy this. So let's begin, and let's start with the first story. The first story is called The Creeps in the Van at the Playground. It's by Airbender 808. And honestly, guys, I'm not too sure if I should say the names or maybe keep it anonymous, but let's just say it for now and let's see how it goes from there. So the title is The Creeps in the Van at the Playground, and it goes like this. When I was in elementary school, maybe 4th, 6th grade, my friend's mom drove us to visit her grandma. It was about 45 minutes to an hour from our town. We drove there with my friend, my age, little brother, and my sister, 1 year older than me. About 1 block from her grandma's house was a kid's playground. From her grandma's front door, you couldn't see the park, but you could see the entrance to it. The playground entrance was placed in between rows of houses, right against the neighborhood street. Touching the far end of the playground was a bike path. On the other side of the bike path was a cornfield. Turning right and following the bike path, it continued into a forest preserve. Houses' backyards lined up along the bike path with a row of fences. Between their fences and the bike path was about 12 to 15 feet wide section of corn that stretched along the bike path until the forest preserve. It felt like a pretty normal suburban neighborhood. Like kids did in the late 90s or early 2000s, me and my sister, friend, and her brother walked over to the park to play by ourselves. We were having a good time playing the usual park games, etc. I saw cars drive by and didn't think much of it, but then I remember noting a large black van that drove by. I can't remember if it was a service van or a minivan, but I remember something feeling off, and I became more vigilant of the cars driving by. We continued to play. I was standing furthest from the street, closest to the bike path. My sister, friend, and brother were fairly close to the street. Suddenly, the black van approached again and stopped right in front of the park. I still remember it as if it happened yesterday. It felt like time slowed down. 5 people dressed in black got out of the van. The van drove away. They were wearing all black with black ski masks on. There was at least 1 or 2 women. The rest were male. One of the males pointed right at me and yelled, "That's the one we want. Let's get her." Then they all started running past my friend, her little brother, and my sister, and ran right towards me. When I heard those words, I began running on the bike path as fast as I could. I jumped into the corn that stretched between the houses and bike path. I laid down on the ground. I covered my mouth and didn't move a muscle. I heard them turn the corner and were now on the bike path. One of them yelled, "I bet she ran down the bike path. She probably isn't far. We'll get her." I was terrified. I lay there as still as I could until I heard no one. I was afraid to return to the park in case the van was back. Through the corn, I assessed the fence and decided my only chance was to jump the fence. It was a large, maybe 5 or 6 foot fence. I knew that once I did, I would be closer to her grandma's house, and I could see her front door from that house's front yard. I stood up as quietly as I could. I jumped over it and ran through the yard. My sister and friend were near the front of the houses and went back to her grandma's. I was so upset. My sister believed me. My friend thought I was making it up, and it must have just been older kids having fun. Her brother was too young to know. I don't remember if I told her mom. Regardless, it was one of the scariest moments of my life. So with that, to the creeps in the van in the park, let's never, ever meet. Alright, the next story is by Few Jellyfish 7263, and it's titled, We Saw Something We Weren't Supposed to See. And it goes like this. I'm posting here to make sure that this is recorded, at least somewhere, in case anything happens. I'll go into only the required amount of details of the environment, per stated in rules. I was driving out of Nowheresville for spring break at 1 to 3 a.m. with a friend, Jeb, and had to stop for utilities just off the highway. Let's just say that this stop was far from any type of civilization, which I'll get to. The gas station was closed, so we decided to go into the bushes. For context, it was in the middle of a severe thunderstorm. Felt like driving through a constant car wash. As we were relieving ourselves, Jeb says, "Hey, can you see the giant rock poking through those woods on that hill?" I said, yeah, I can, just barely though." Jeb said, "Look on top of it." There was a barely visible outline of a person standing atop of the rock. You could tell that they were trying their best to stand perfectly still, yet also having a staring contest with us. It was clear they weren't wearing any sort of attire for the rain. Of course, we decided to sprint back to the car. Jeb said, "I think it was a girl, but it's so hard to see in this rain." I said, "Beats me some random without a car 9 times out of 10, so let's find out." We pull out and we're able to angle the car so that the brights could point at the rock. We knew it made little difference in the storm, but tried anyways. The brights barely revealed 2 grown men working together to both drag something large, and appeared to be digging behind the rock from our view. Both were in completely blacked out clothes. We could tell they were definitely okay with getting soaked. What sent chills down our spine, other than seeing the one originally, was that for the split second they looked back at our lights. Both were wearing what appeared to be Halloween masks, or at least something covering their faces that looked like it could have been dark painted hockey masks. Before they were able to drag the large trash bag looking thing fully behind the rock, words cannot describe how fast I got back onto that highway. There were no other cars in the area, and we could tell that the woods were isolated to just a patch beside the highway. Still not sure what it was we saw, but the conditions lined up perfectly to be no witnesses. I couldn't come up with a logical reason for this, so I hoped others here might have one. Alright, this next one is by Sky Educational 7070. The title is called The Weirdest Facebook Marketplace Experience I've Had. It goes like this. Alright, so this story happened to me a couple of years ago when I was around 14 years old. At the time, I wanted to make a little bit of money for myself. I figured the easiest way to do that is by selling some of my old toys on Facebook Marketplace. I had a pretty big Lego Harry Potter collection, but I wasn't really into Harry Potter anymore, so I decided to sell it. A few days after posting the ad, a buyer contacted me. I remember feeling really excited because I was about to make my first real money out of my own. The buyer was a man who looked kind of old, but from his profile picture he seemed nice enough. He told me he wanted to buy the Legos for his grandson, which honestly made the whole thing seem pretty wholesome. But as we started messaging, a few things felt off. Whenever I asked him questions about when he could pick up the Legos, he would leave me on scene and not reply. Sometimes he wouldn't answer until I sent multiple question marks. On top of that, he made a lot of grammatical mistakes, like the kind of mistakes a high schooler might make, not a fully grown adult. At the time, I thought it was weird, but ignored it. Eventually, we agreed to meet, but I don't remember exactly if it was Wednesday or Thursday, but I remember I had school the next day. He said he wanted to pick them up that night. I gave him the address of a bookstore about a 10-minute walk from my house. That way I wouldn't have to give him my actual home address. He told me he wanted to meet at 8:30 p.m. Looking back now, that's obviously really late for a 14-year-old to meet a stranger, but at the time I just wanted the money, so I agreed. Still, something in my gut told me not to go alone. My dad was away on a business trip at the time, so I asked my mom if she could come with me. She immediately asked if I could reschedule the meeting with the man. I told her it would be fine and that the man seemed nice. Eventually, she agreed to come with me. We drove to the bookstore, but my mom didn't want the man to see our car, so she parked about 5 minutes away and we walked the rest of the way. Pocket, because I didn't want to carry them in my hands. As we were walking towards the bookstore, something immediately caught my attention. Standing in front of the store was a man. He looked middle-aged, maybe older, but right away I noticed something strange. He didn't look like the man in the Facebook profile picture at all. The man in the profile picture had long gray hair, but this guy was skinny, had a buzz cut, and was wearing a sling bag across his chest. Before we crossed the street, my mom stopped me. She told me to text the man and say that I was already inside the bookstore. She had a bad feeling and didn't want me to go near him, so I did exactly that. As we walked past the man, I hid my phone so he couldn't see that I was texting. I sent him a message saying that I was already inside the store and asked if he could come in. Almost immediately he replied. He told me to come outside, and he kept insisting. At this point, it was really dark outside, and barely anyone was around. The only reason I could even see him clearly was because of the streetlight nearby. I messaged him again and told him that I wasn't going outside, even though I was actually walking away towards the car. I wanted him to think I was still inside the bookstore. Then he sent another message. He simply called me an idiot and added a laughing emoji. That message honestly freaked me out. It felt like he knew something was off. As soon as my mom and I got back into the car, we drove away. On the way home, she told me to delete my Marketplace account and block the man immediately. When we got home, I thanked my mom for coming with me. She hugged me and told me that I should never meet someone this late again. But the story doesn't end there. Around the same time, one of my friends was also selling Lego figures on Marketplace. He was a little older than me, maybe 16. I told him about the whole situation, but I never told him the name of the man. Halfway through my story, my friend suddenly said a name and asked, "Wait, was it this guy?" I was completely shocked. I asked him how he knew. Then he showed me screenshots of a conversation he had with a buyer. It was the same man. And he was telling my friend the exact same story, that he wanted to buy Lego figures for his grandson. My friend immediately messaged him and said someone had already bought the figures. That wasn't true, just didn't want to deal with the guy anymore. After that, neither of us ever heard from the man again. I don't know what he's doing now. My gut feeling tells me that whoever that man really was, he definitely wasn't trying to buy Legos for his grandson. This next one comes from One Sweet 8576. It's titled, "My Stalker Ended Up Killing 2 Girls." And this is how the story goes. This story happened in Ohio in the 80s. I was a teenager long before cell phones existed, living with my parents near Columbus. I don't know when the first time he saw me was, but the first time I saw him was through our kitchen window. We had a pop-out greenhouse window, and it was late at night. I was getting a glass of water. All the lights were off, and I happened to look outside and saw a figure of a man outside the window. I froze and just went back into my room because I was so scared, acting like nothing happened. It may seem crazy, I didn't do more, but that was not the first time that I felt someone was watching me. For weeks before that, I knew someone was outside of my bedroom window. We lived in a one-story house that backed up to the park, so anyone could go past the back of my house to the main street. It wasn't unusual for people to be around. For weeks late at night, I would wake up with the strongest sense of someone watching me. It was summer, so the window was open, but I had blinds blocking my view from outside and a screen to keep out bugs. After a few times of waking up like this, I started to hear someone touching the screen, like running their fingernails across the mesh. This happened 2 or 3 times a week, and sometimes I would get the courage to run to my parents' room, but by the time we went back, he was never there. They didn't really believe me either. this became an almost nightly thing, and I knew I wasn't imagining it. So when I saw him outside the window, it was almost a relief. I saw he was real, and I wasn't imagining it. This went months until finally it started to snow, and then there were footprints visible outside my window. So my parents at least acknowledged he was real, but didn't really do much. Remember, this was the 80s. Then it all came to a head when I was home alone with a couple of friends getting ready to go out. My parents were away at a dinner, so we had the house to ourselves. The blinds were up on one of the bedroom windows, and as I turned around, there he was, standing directly in the window, staring at us. He was a scary-looking guy with bright orange dyed hair. This time I screamed along with my friends, who ran into the bathroom, which didn't have an outside window, and finally got up the courage to run to the kitchen to call 911. The police came at about the same time my parents got home, but there was no sign of the guy. The police basically accused my friends and I of drinking and making the whole thing up. A few weeks later, I happened to see a newspaper and stopped dead in my tracks. There was a picture of the guy on the front page. He had attacked 2 girls in a gas station and ended up killing them. The police had shot and killed him when they were trying to detain him. Honestly, I can't remember all the details, and I haven't been able to find the article since. I remember feeling shocked and relieved that he wasn't coming back. So, guy with the dyed orange hair, let's not meet. Alright, this next one is by Recent Raisin 125, and it's titled Abandoned Kick the Buddy Sacrifice / Altar? ? And it goes like this. So I live in Los Angeles, like North Hollywood-ish, and for the past 2 weeks I kept seeing the same thing pop up on my feed from different urban exploration accounts of this abandoned warehouse near me in Burbank with this giant Kick the Buddy statue hanging from a wooden gallows inside it. For those that don't know what Kick the Buddy is, it was this App Store game from the mid-2010s where you basically tortured a little doll for fun. And like the weird kid I was obsessed with it back then. So seeing a life-size version of it in real life needed to get crossed off the bucket list. I ended up DMing one of the accounts on TikTok that posted it, and they responded with the address that was like a 20-minute drive. I told my friend about it. He played the game too and wanted to go with me. So we drove out over there to embark on our little Kick the Buddy excursion. Mind you, it was 4 p.m. when we got there, still light out. From the outside, it looked like another abandoned warehouse you'd see in LA. If you're not from here, it's nothing special, just really flat and dusty. The windows were covered up from the inside with this weird paper mache looking material, just like the typical abandoned building stuff. There was one door that looked like the main entrance that looked widely old, so me and my friend pushed, and with one non-forceful push, it swung open. Inside was dim, but not pitch black, because there was still some light coming through the covered windows, like the paper material was letting a little glow through. The air felt stale, and it just kind of smelled like old wood. The look through the entrance wasn't much, just random warehouse junk, storage racks, boxes, etc. Some old equipment. I remember seeing saws and other tools, a bunch of toys in different piles, which already felt weird. But like 20 to 25 feet ahead of me, centered, was the Buddy statue, hanging from the gallows. It was way bigger than it looked in videos that I had seen, not like a small prop tossed up for a photo. It was life-sized in a way that felt overwhelming, at least for me. When I was younger, I loved cartoons, but seeing a childhood cartoon character in real life felt wrong and depressing, and you immediately want to look away. That's essentially what it felt like. The statue itself looked like a plush doll, but huge, maybe around 6 feet. The head was drooped forward like it had weight to it. It was hanging by a slip knot, and the rope looked tight enough that it was actually holding it up. Even in the low light, I could tell it was really well made, like someone put time into it. The proportions were right, the material looked legit, it didn't look like cheap Halloween stuff. We started walking closer, and that's when we both smelled this horrific, rotting smell. Not like spoiled milk, but like a dead animal or something. That smell, it hit us so fast and so hard that we stopped. We both stopped, without even saying anything, because of how bad it was. We continued walking towards it, but really couldn't go further without covering our noses with our t-shirts. It was so strong, it felt like it was coating the back of my throat. I remember breathing through my mouth for a second, and it somehow felt worse. The smell wasn't coming from the whole building, it was concentrated. Like the closer we got to the gallows area, the stronger it got. Right near the base of the gallows, there was this setup that looked like a memorial, similar to those sidewalk memorials people make when someone dies. But rather it was decorated with broken toys and a photo of Jesus. And the main thing in the center was this large photo of a guy with a shaved head and eyebrows. And he's leaning on the wall, kind of like that one photo of Daniel Larson. Lol. Next to it was an old, now that's what I call music, cassette, taped like early 2000s. The rest of the building was normal, stale warehouse air. That area by the gallows felt like the air was heavier and colder, like standing near an open freezer. Up close, I could see stains on the bloody figure, like darker patches on the fabric, and the smell was so bad, at that point we couldn't even stand there comfortably. The wood on the front center beam, written in Sharpie, was written by Elijah Walker. At this point, we just wanted to go, so we just turned around and walked out fast. Later that night, we looked up the name Elijah Walker, and there wasn't really much, like a few scattered TikTok clips of him going crazy, but nothing else. I don't know who built that thing. I don't know why it smells like that. I don't know why there's a memorial inside an abandoned warehouse dedicated to a guy whose name barely shows up online. Has anyone else been there? Or has seen this in LA? This next one is by Important Manor 834. It's titled, "We Almost Watched Our Hostel Roommate Jump from a 5th Floor Window." It goes like this. This happened in Berlin in 2022, first night of our trip, and I still think about it sometimes. We stayed at a hostel near Hermannplatz. I hope I said that right. The Russian-Ukraine war had just started. Berlin was full of refugees arriving by train that becomes more important later. We were 3 friends, 2 guys and 1 girl. The room was for 4 people with a private bathroom. When we checked in, the room was empty, so we assumed that no one else was coming. We went out for beers, came back late, still empty. We thought, great, we got lucky. The room was on the 5th floor, and the window opened all the way. No safety lock, nothing. 2 bunk beds, one right next to the window wall, the other across the room. There was a chair and a small desk directly in front of the window. Late at night, the door suddenly opens, and a guy walks in. He was from Kharkiv. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, you guys. Let's just continue. Ukrainian, or maybe pro-Russian Ukrainian. It was hard to tell. After a brief discussion, he immediately fell off. Nervous, stressed, talking a lot. We chatted in English. At first, we thought he was just anxious or tired. Time passes. It is already around 3 a.m. My friends fell asleep, but I'm still awake talking to him. He's sitting on the chair right in front of the window. Eventually, I tell him, politely, that we plan to go to museums early and that it would be good to sleep or at least keep it quiet. He says okay. I turn off the lights and lie down. He goes to the bathroom. A bit later, I hear weird knocking sounds. Soft at first, then louder, then one really loud bang and silence. I get worried and walk to the bathroom door, which he left slightly opened. I see him on the floor next to a small toiletry bag. I ask him if he's okay. He says yes and tells me to leave him alone. I go back to bed, but now I'm fully anxious. He comes out of the bathroom and suddenly starts doing exercises, stretching, push-ups, then sprinting inside the room. Then I hear him running up and down the hallway. At this point, I'm just staring at the ceiling like, what the hell is happening? He comes back and says he's hot, opens the window. It was April, not freezing, but still. Then I watch him take a running start from the door toward the window, one step on the chair, second on the desk, and suddenly he is completely outside. Standing on the window ledge, holding the frame with both hands. I panic, but I do not scream. I was terrified that if I startled him, he would fall. I slowly walk toward him and calmly tell him to get down. He calmly tells me he has it under control. I try to touch him and he says, "If you touch me, I will fall." So I step back and just keep talking to him. Somehow, he climbs back inside. The second he does, I close the window and tell him how dangerous that was and that he cannot do that again. He agrees. I don't sleep at all. A few minutes later, he opens the window again and does the exact same thing. This time I lose it and shout, "Don't do this." My friends wake up in shock. It was around 4 a.m. Our female friend, who had a direct view from her bed, is completely frozen and cannot even speak. My other friend stays calm and helps me to talk him down again. We talk in our own language so he cannot understand, and we agree we need to inform reception. Meanwhile, he apologizes, says he will not do it again, asks us to leave him alone. We hesitate because he is clearly going through something and is probably a refugee. We stupidly give him one more chance. He goes back to the window. This time he says he does it for the adrenaline. That is when we are done. I stay near the window while my friend quietly goes to reception. He texts us to come down. We'll leave the guy alone in this room and go downstairs. The police are called. Reception literally gives us beers to calm him down. The police arrive, go upstairs, and find him sleeping. They come back down and tell us he is asleep. We insist that once he wakes up, he'll do it again. We show him photos and short videos I had taken. That is when they finally take it seriously. They take our statements, we wake him up, and take him away. We think it's over. The hostel gives us free breakfast for the next days. Cool, except the stuff is still in the room. Backpack and toiletry bag. I do something stupid and open up the toiletry bag. Inside is some kind of drug. White paste and a syringe without a needle. We should have told reception immediately, but we were exhausted. Just wanted to sleep. Next morning we got to breakfast early. We planned to go straight to the museums. I had left my thick jacket in the room, thinking it would not be cold. It was cold, so I go back alone to grab it. I open the door. He's back. Same guy, same window. This time, wearing his backpack. Inside the backpack, stuffed aggressively, are my flip-flops that I left outside my locker. I don't say a word. I grab my flip-flops and walk straight out. I run to reception where my friends are already waiting. We tell them he is back. Turns out the police never took his room key. He was released and came back to get his things. Unreal. This was the last time we saw him. We went to the museum and finished up the trip without anything else happening. I don't remember his name, and honestly, I would not be surprised if he's not alive anymore. Wild way to start a vacation. Alright, this next one is by All Ages Gaming, and it's titled, "I walked into a cult or a mafia meeting or a drug ring. I can't figure out which." It goes like this. I'm a Chicago Cub fan, but I have lived in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area all my life. Earlier this season, when the Pirates were in Chicago, I decided to go to a sports bar to watch the game. Specifically, one I've driven past a bunch but never given a try. Pittsburgh Sports Bar in Castle Shannon. I went in there about 5 to 10 minutes before first pitch in my Cubs gear. And there was one woman tending the bar with an old couple sitting at the end of the bar. They both stared at me as I came in as if I was an alien. I figured it was because I was wearing opposing team's gear. No greeting or anything, I sat myself down and just waited for the game to start. But I realized that the old couple and bartender were deep in conversation, and they were fixated on each other. I walked up to the bar and tried to order food. There were no menus, napkins, salt, pepper, anything on the table indicating that there was food served there. As I started talking to the bartender, I noticed there was no bottles, taps, or any alcohol behind the bar at all. It was just a bunch of random Pittsburgh sports memorabilia. Very random things, too. Nothing really followed a theme, as well as a bunch of signs saying things similar to, "If you're easily offended, get out," and the like. When I was talking to the bartender, the old couple was just staring at me blankly. She told me she'd be right back with the menu, and she was in the back room for a good 10 minutes or so before bringing me a menu. Really odd, but I ordered anyways. I ended up getting a pizza slice and a wing, a fry basket combo. It was ridiculously cheap. I paid like $6 for all of it. And the pizza slice was massive. There were a dozen huge wings, and the basket of fries was giant. I feel like anywhere else this food would have costed well over $20. The food was done in just a few minutes, and it was brought out to me by the bartender. What's weird is she went into the kitchen, or what I presume was to be the kitchen, to seemingly cook it herself. I got a glimpse of the kitchen when she opened the door, and it was almost completely empty. There were no cooks, no sounds of ovens or fryers or anything. The wings were really, really good. So were the fries. Easily the best wings and fries I've ever had. The pizza was immaculate as well. It was almost too good. As soon as I got my food, more people started coming in. Some very strange individuals, too. I was watching the game by this point, but would frequently side-eye and observe what was going on. I was at the table closest to the door and by the biggest TV, but everyone else that came in sat at the very end of the bar, as far away from me as possible. Then, the old couple and the bartender were just non-stop talking very quietly. I could not make out what they were saying. They all looked like statues, never changed facial expressions, even when talking. Completely straight faces. None of them even ordered anything at all. It was more like social than anything. That's weird enough, but some of the other stranger actions I noticed are as follows. There was not a single person wearing any sort of Pittsburgh sports gear. All the most bland, boring outfits imaginable. It was a Saturday, 2 p.m. game. There should have been plenty of Pirates fans watching the game and getting drunk with their buddies, but nope, not one. Whenever the Pirates scored or did anything good, there was no reaction from anybody. No cheers, no groans. It was like the game wasn't even on. Yet they were all glued to the screen watching it. While having these conversations with the bartender, the man from the old couple was the strangest. Every 5 minutes or so, he would walk over to the video slot machinery right by my table and put in a $20 bill and bet it all at once, losing every single time. He did this for probably an hour and a half. Towards the end of the game, he proceeded to walk over to the Touch Tunes machine and put in a $20 bill and put on the strangest, most vintage sounding dance music I've ever heard. Like not any big names at all, just very random, like a hole-in-the-wall ice cream social playlist of the most 1930s underground songs possible. For whatever reason they had it, so the Touch Tunes took over the TV audio so I could no longer hear the game. I guess it was a way to drive me out of there. Finally, after a good half hour or so, the game ended and the Touch Tunes playlist was still going. It had been over 3 hours since I placed my order. The bartender never came to check on me, nor give me my check. I went up to ask for the check myself, and she looked a little confused. Before giving me my check, she went over to the group of 5 to 6 people sitting at the end of the bar, said something to them, and they all proceeded to get up and walk out of the back door together. She went back to the kitchen, came out a few minutes later with my check, and I paid. I then left. I was already kind of uneasy and started to feel something was off. And when I left, one of the most strange people at the end of the bar was outside the door and tried to strike up a conversation about Chicago or whatever. But I just mumbled a vague answer and got in my car and got out of there. Did I walk in a cult? A genuine mafia area? Drug rings? So there's an edit, and I'm going to read it right now. Edit. So based on some comments, what seems likely is I walked into the wrong spot. but thought it was the legit Pittsburgh sports bar with a good reviews. Since it's a generic name, I could have easily been directed on maps to another sports bar close by that is actually a front, and just assumed it was the legit Pittsburgh sports bar. Alright, moving on. Well guys, this has been the end of the video. I really do hope you guys enjoyed, and I do apologize for some of the mistakes I've made while reading. I'm kind of illiterate. No, I'm not, but I don't know, I just slip up sometimes. My brain and my words and my mouth don't really match up. I'm even messing up right now as I'm speaking to you guys. But if you guys enjoyed this, please make sure to like, subscribe, and give me any suggestions down below for anything else that I should do. If you want me to read from another subreddit, because these are all from the subreddit r/let's not meet, so that's where I'm getting my stuff at mostly. But if you guys have any other subreddits that you guys think I would like to read, or try to find some other creepy stuff, please let me know. I always take any suggestions from you guys. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, thank you guys for watching and for the support and everything. And tell me if you guys like this style of content. If you guys don't, I'll just continue doing like gameplay stuff or whatever. But yeah, that's basically it for this video. And yeah, again, I'm sorry for not being able to talk right. I don't know, the words are just a little confusing to me or sometimes. And yeah, I really do appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching the last video that I made on this. And again, the audio for this was recorded after the gameplay, because I felt like I got a little distracted last time, and I kind of just wanted to focus on the actual gameplay and the actual stories, rather than just you know, being distracted by one thing. So I will give my opinion from some of these stories that I remember. I feel like most of them were pretty freaking creepy. But yeah, the one that stood out to me the most was probably the girl that would have a stalker like in their house. First of all, if there was a stalker, why would you have your window open like that in the first place? I would close that, and I would tell my parents, but like very quietly. I wouldn't run up and like make a bunch of noise running to my parents' room, because that would, like, you know, the stalker would hear that. So I would personally run away. And matter of fact, I would open up that window, I would jump out, and I would start throwing hands. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody killing me. But yeah, jokes aside, I really do hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I've been your host, Boboke. If you guys think that you have a scary story or any disgusting, disturbing stories, leave them in the comments section down below. Let me know. I'll be happy to read them out in the video. I hope everyone has a good day. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out.